Her name was Isabella Monroe, a social media star with millions of followers. She flaunted a glamorous lifestyle, lavish parties, luxury homes, and so-called inspirational advice that people couldn't get enough of. But then, during one live stream, she snapped. When a neighbor's dog, a gentle Labrador named Buddy, started barking at the blaring music coming from her party, Isabella, in a flash of rage, hurled a glass of wine at him, right there in front of thousands watching live. The video went viral. Outrage exploded online. Brands dropped her. Her accounts were permanently banned. From a symbol of success, she became a warning, a name people spat out in disgust, and an unforgettable example of how cruelty, arrogance, and impulse can destroy a person faster than they ever imagined. But what Isabella didn't know was that this was only the beginning, because one day she would be forced to stand before the very man she once mocked and ask for forgiveness. And strangely enough, her redemption would come from the one creature she hurt the most. Keep watching until the end. You might just learn something about kindness and the cost of cruelty. Maplewood, not a gated community for the ultra-wealthy, but a quiet, graceful neighborhood nestled in the heart of the city. Cobblestone paths curve gently past red-tiled rooftops, white picket fences, neatly trimmed lawns, and flower baskets swaying softly from front porches like little wind chimes made of petals. Here, mornings begin with school bus engines and warm greetings between neighbors. No honking, no flashing billboards, just genuine simplicity, the kind modern cities are starting to forget. Among these modest homes stands one that looks like it was pulled straight from a design magazine. Sleek, minimalist, with glass walls gleaming under the sun. This is the new home of Isabella Monroe, a social media influencer who had moved in just 3 months ago. But Isabella didn't choose Maplewood for its quiet charm. She chose it because the balcony gets golden hour lighting, and the white walls look perfect in aesthetic shots. She never greeted a single neighbor. Every morning she'd step out in designer loungewear, sunglasses on, phone raised in one hand, lips whispering pre-rehearsed lines for videos, AirPods snug in her ears, completely disconnected from the real world around her. Next door, in a weathered little wooden house with faded shingles and a slightly tilted fence, lived a man of a different kind. Mr. Walter Jenkins, a retired schoolteacher, and his most loyal companion, Buddy, a chocolate-brown Labrador. Walter's days began with the comforting whistle of a stovetop kettle, the smell of hand-ground coffee, and the soft rustle of newspaper pages. He sat in a creaky wooden chair on his porch, sipping coffee, eyes following Buddy as the dog playfully chased spinning leaves across the yard. In Walter's gaze lived the calm of someone who had seen enough of life to know what truly matters, and also a quiet loneliness, the kind only people who've lived long enough can recognize in themselves. To Walter, Buddy wasn't a pet. He was family, a friend, a piece of the past and the last remaining light of each peaceful afternoon. Two worlds separated only by a wooden fence, one built on spotlights, filters, and moments curated for digital applause. The other made of real moments, lived honestly, whether or not anyone was watching. And it seemed those two worlds would never collide. Until one night when bass-heavy music pounded from the sleek house, and a sharp bark rang out from the quiet one next door. No one noticed the shift in the air, except Buddy. And no one knew that from this ordinary moment, something extraordinary was about to unfold. That night, Maplewood didn't feel like Maplewood anymore. Gone were the quiet sidewalks, the rustling leaves, the soft jazz from Mr. Walter's porch radio. Instead, screeching tires, growling engines, and headlights slicing through the gentle calm like knives. A bright yellow Lamborghini pulled up in front of 14B. Then came a white Porsche, a metallic green BMW, a matte black G-Wagon. One of them parked halfway across Mr. Walter's walkway, blocking the narrow brick path he used every morning to tend his garden. No one asked. No one noticed. "Just park. No one here's gonna care," one girl laughed, already blasting music from a portable speaker. They didn't come to greet neighbors. They came to be seen. The party began like a performance. Isabella Monroe's house lit up like a film set. Color-changing LED lights danced across the pool. Confetti cannons popped. EDM shook the glass walls like an earthquake. On the second floor, Isabella stepped onto the balcony in a shimmering silver dress, a glass of red wine in one hand and her phone in the other, angled perfectly for a live stream. Cheers, babes. Maplewood belongs to us tonight. She beamed into the camera. The screen exploded. Queen Energy. She's owning it. Maplewood just leveled up. Music boomed. The crowd hyped. Ring lights glowed in every corner. Every angle became content. But then, woof, woof, woof. A sound that didn't fit the aesthetic. Buddy, Mr. Walter's chocolate lab, started barking. Not loud, not frantic, but firm, sharp, alert. A few heads turned. Was that a dog? Seriously? Kind of ruining the vibe. Even the live stream comments started shifting. What's that noise? The dog's too loud. Killing the mood, honestly. Isabella's smile froze. Her grip on the wine glass tightened. She glanced toward the fence. Buddy kept barking, staring directly into the blinking lights. Can someone make that dog shut up already? She muttered, still half facing her phone. Nobody moved. Buddy barked again, louder, faster, unshaken. He wasn't angry, he was anxious, sensing something wasn't right. And Isabella felt it too, but not the same thing. She wasn't afraid, she was losing control. The music felt off. The eyes weren't cheering anymore. The chat was changing tone. She clenched her jaw, gripped the glass, and inside her head, everything screamed. How is this happening? This is my party, my spotlight, my stage. Being ruined by a damn dog? She snapped, and she threw. The wine glass spun through the air, cutting across lights, laughter, and live stream. Crash! It shattered against the concrete just inches from Buddy. Red liquid sprayed upward, splashing across the white wooden fence in a jagged stain, like a wound. Buddy recoiled. He didn't bark. He didn't run. He just stared, eyes wide, body frozen, like he was asking, what did I do wrong? The party didn't erupt. It died. People stopped dancing. One guest put their drink down. Another quietly ordered a car. A couple slipped out the gate, heads low. Someone whispered, "She actually threw it at the dog?" A well-known TikToker turned off her camera. The live stream chat blew up. She threw wine at a dog? I'm reporting this. Disgusting. Unfollowed. Immediately. Animal abuser, period. The music still played, but it didn't matter. The vibe had cracked. The entire party had shifted. Isabella could feel it. She looked around. No one met her eyes. She glanced at her phone. The comments were no longer hearts. She tried to fix it. Guys, come on. Don't overreact. I reacted. Who wouldn't? With a dog barking like that during a live stream. I'm not some dog hater, okay? I'm working. This is work. You have no idea how much pressure this job takes. No one responded. Even her closest friends stepped back. And in the corner, Buddy still stood there. Silent. Still. Watching. And in his eyes wasn't fear, but something worse, a quiet kind of truth. That didn't bark, didn't argue, didn't need to be explained. One by one, guests slipped away. No goodbyes. No selfies. No lingering hugs. Just a trail of heels on stone and engines starting outside. Let's go. Can't believe she actually did that. This whole thing feels gross now. Isabella stood still, glassless hand trembling, her face beginning to flush. Go ahead. Leave then, she snapped. Play the saints. Act like you've never been mad in your lives. I see right through you. She tossed her phone onto the table. The live stream was off. The house was quiet again. The LED lights kept flickering, but no one looked. The music kept playing, but no one listened. And across the fence, a stain of red wine bled down the white wood like a secret that couldn't be taken back. That's how the party ended. Not with music, not with applause, but with anger, silence, and the gaze of a dog who never needed words to say, I saw who you really are. The next afternoon, the sun had been up for hours, slipping through the sheer curtains into a house that felt unusually quiet. Wine stains had dried across the table. Chairs were still out of place. Confetti clung to the floor like leftover noise. No music, no laughter, no curated moments for the internet. Only a phone lying face down, buzzing silently with hundreds of unread notifications. Messages kept flooding in. Clips from the live stream were going viral. The hashtag #IsabellaAbuser had cracked the top 5 trending topics. But she hadn't opened any of it. Not yet. Not ready. Nearly 1 p.m., Isabella finally stirred. As someone used to living out of sync with the real world. She threw on a silk robe, her face still smudged with leftover makeup, dark circles heavy from a sleepless night. A coffee cup in her hand, Not to drink, but to perform a habit, pretending that everything was still under control. She stepped out onto the balcony, hoping the sunlight might warm something broken inside her. But the moment she looked down, she froze. There they were, unchanged, untouched, unbothered. Walter sat in his old wooden chair, turning the pages of a newspaper like nothing had happened. Buddy lay curled at his feet, peaceful. His head rested on Walter's leg. His movements a little slower today, perhaps from the shock last night, but his eyes still calm, unafraid. Isabella's brow furrowed. There was no barking, no noise at all. But somehow their quietness, so natural, so complete, was louder than anything. She had been humiliated in public, abandoned by friends, roasted by her own followers. And yet, they looked like peace itself. "Does he even feel ashamed?" she muttered, lifting her chin and calling out, "Hey, I think you need to train your dog better. He's disturbing people, you know that?" Walter looked up. His eyes weren't sharp, they weren't cold, but they held a kind of depth that made people go silent. The kind that belonged to someone who'd lived through far more seasons of quiet than most people ever would. His voice was soft, steady. He only reacts to sound, just like people do sometimes. When they get loud, it's not always because they're right, but because they're angry. Isabella let out a dry, sarcastic laugh. But inside, a heat began to build. She, who had once been hailed as a queen of social media, whose face had launched trends, whose words had sold products, whose every step had been adored. Now here she was being lectured by an old man in a wool sweater reading a paper in his yard. Who does he think he is? I have millions of followers. He probably doesn't even have a phone smart enough to install Instagram. The insult wasn't what he said. It was the fact that he wasn't afraid. He didn't bow, didn't flatter, didn't even flinch. He treated her like an ordinary person. And for Isabella, that was the greatest insult of all. "What, are you giving me a life lesson now? I don't have time for these elderly monologues. I work. I have millions of people who listen to me, not just sit in the yard playing with a dog all day." She tightened her grip on the coffee cup. "I moved here to live, to enjoy myself, not to hear a dog barking every time I play music. If you can't control him, don't blame me for what happens." Walter didn't reply right away. He looked at her, not accusingly, but in a way that made her feel like she had already said too much. Then gently he spoke. "I've lived here longer than you, and I've never disturbed anyone. But if you think silence is something only you deserve, then maybe you've never truly listened to this neighborhood at all." His words didn't cut like a knife. They landed soft, but deep, like they'd found the one hollow spot in her chest that was already breaking. She turned without a word, walked inside, and slammed the glass door shut like it could block everything out. But the door wasn't thick enough, because across the yard, Buddy was still watching her. He didn't bark. He didn't growl. He just looked up, quiet, loyal, and sad. And that look didn't blame her. It didn't hate her. It simply hurt. And that kind of hurt was something Isabella wouldn't be able to sleep through tonight, or maybe for many nights to come. Isabella slammed the glass door shut behind her, storming back into the house. She didn't glance back at the old man or the dog. To her, arguing with someone that old, someone so clearly stuck in his own quiet little world, was pointless. "He can rot in his rocking chair for all I care. I've got an empire to rebuild." She dropped into the couch, legs crossed, fingers drumming against her forehead. But in the corners of her mind, that calm, fearless gaze from the old man still lingered, a look that didn't challenge but didn't bow either. It irritated her, deeply. Who am I? I'm Isabella Monroe, the woman whose posts hit 1 million likes, the face of campaigns, the queen of timing, trends, and turnarounds. I've flipped worse PR disasters than this. No way I'm letting some wrinkled grandpa and his mutt ruin me. What she needed was something bigger, louder, sharper. If people think the last party was a mess, fine, then I'll give them something they can't look away from. The bikini party, her grand comeback. The next noon, Maplewood woke again. Not to barking this time, but to the roar of luxury engines flooding the street. Range Rovers, Rolls Royces, convertible Mercedes, custom Teslas. One by one, they lined up like a red carpet parade, drowning the quiet charm of the neighborhood under tinted windows and curated chaos. In Isabella's backyard, a massive backdrop glittered near the pool, spelling in bold metallic letters, "Sun Body, Boss Energy, Feet, Isabella Monroe." She emerged like a goddess walking out of a perfume ad. Silver bikini, sheer flowing robe, curled hair, cat-eye sunglasses, and perfect red lips. Let's bury the drama with champagne and sunlight, she smiled, speaking to the camera like a host of her own reality show. The guest list was fire. Beauty bloggers with millions of views, fashion influencers who'd graced Elle covers, a Spotify-hyped rapper, luxury travel KOLs, sponsored brand reps and stylists flown in from LA. Every outfit screamed Instagram, every person held a phone, every moment was content. Champagne popped non-stop, pouring into tulip crystal towers. Pastel-colored cocktails sparkled in the sun. Fruit platters were arranged to spell Isabella. Mini mousse cakes bore the logos of her brand sponsors. Music dropped hard and flawless. Her DJ? A name fresh off a Palm Springs Music Fest, and recently spun at an Emmy afterparty. Bose speakers thundered across the pool, turning the backyard into a private Coachella. The live stream was on. Cameras tracked her every move like she was headlining a tour. She flipped her hair, dropped the robe, smiled like nothing in the world could touch her. What's up, world? Welcome to Real Energy, where drama gets blocked and only vibes are welcome. 10K viewers, then 15K, 22K in #Isabella. Come back climbing fast on trending tabs. She looked into the lens like a queen reclaiming her throne. As long as I'm Lay, I exist. As long as they watch, I'm still somebody. And if they turn on me, I'll just shine louder, longer, brighter. But amidst the glitter and volume, something, small but off-key, started to rise. A guest near the pool, scrolling on her phone, froze. Her expression shifted. She stared at the screen, at a resurfaced clip from the last party. Isabella, throwing the wine glass. Buddy, terrified, the shatter, the silence. She quietly slipped the phone back into her bag. No words, no pictures. Just a slow, silent walk out of the party. Isabella didn't notice. No one did. Overhead, a silver balloon, one of dozens, started to deflate slowly, hissing gently as it sagged. No one looked, no one cared, but the sound kept going. And at that very moment, Isabella Monroe believed she had won again. She had no idea. This fall wouldn't come from a bark. It would come from the sound of her own ego, leaking air in front of thousands live. The party was still going strong. Sunlight hit its peak. Music was pulsing. The live stream climbed past 30,000 viewers. Isabella, radiant and in control, moved like a queen across her backyard stage, laughing, toasting, striking poses. Everything revolved around her, or so she thought. Across the fence, the small wooden house sat quiet. Walter had left early that morning, off to Sunday service like he always did. He'd left Buddy at home, alone but not unwatched. The back door was slightly ajar. Buddy heard the music pounding from the other side. At first, he stayed still. But then came the bass, deeper, louder. Then a firecracker. He rose, moved to the backyard. He peeked toward the flashing lights and loud voices, then barked. Twice, short, sharp, alert. Inside the party, a group of slightly drunk guests hovered around the bar. One guy in a mesh tank top squinted toward the fence and laughed. Well, look who's back, the drama dog. A girl giggled and pulled out her phone. Buddy, you came for round 2. They began tossing food, orange peels, half-eaten snacks, chunks of cheese, in the general direction of the fence. Come on, celebrity dog. Give us a bark, baby. Buddy didn't move. He backed up, tucked himself into a shaded corner of the yard, ears low, eyes watchful, alert, but still. He remembered Walter's words. If I'm not home, don't go near the noise. Just stay still and watch. From the second-floor balcony, Isabella noticed the group huddled near the fence. Then her eyes found it. Buddy. His presence hit her like a glitch in a perfect broadcast. He didn't bark again. He didn't move. He just looked. Comments on her live stream exploded. Is that the dog from the wine clip? He's literally just sitting there again. Protect that dog. More grace than the host, not gonna lie. Isabella's jaw tensed. She forced a smile for the camera. Oh, sounds like someone dropped by uninvited. I'll go take a quick look. The moment she stepped off camera, her expression hardened, jaw clenched, eyes sharp. She stormed through the yard toward the group near the fence. What's going on here? Why are you all crowding this spot? Someone pointed beyond the fence. It's the dog. He's just watching. It's kind of sweet. She turned, saw Buddy, still there, still watching. No barking, no fear, just that look. And somehow, that silence enraged her more than any scream ever could. Get out, she snapped. Go back to your yard. I've had enough of you. Buddy didn't flinch, didn't run. He curled tighter in the corner, still watching. Some guests stepped back. A few phones went up. A drunken voice behind her chimed in. Yo, maybe the dog's pulling more views than you. That broke something inside her. She spun around, grabbed the half-full beer bottle from his hand. I'll show you who's running this show. And she threw it. Crack! The bottle slammed directly into Buddy's left shoulder. He yelped, sharp and stifled, then collapsed sideways onto the concrete. Blood began to trickle down his fur, soaking into the pavement. He didn't cry out again. He didn't bark. He gasped, eyes fluttered. He tried to crawl back into the shade, dragging his body painfully, leaving a thin red trail across the cement. One paw curled under. His body trembled. He lay still. Silence. Music still played, but no one heard it. A single silver balloon detached from the party tent drifted downward. She hit the dog, someone whispered. She didn't just lose it, she committed assault. Isabella stood frozen. Her fingers opened. The cocktail glass slipped and shattered at her feet. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. She stared at Buddy, the dog she had just hurt. And for the first time, there were no excuses, no angles, no filters, only the truth, brutal and irreversible. Phones were filming. One was already uploading. A hashtag was born. The silver balloon rolled through the small puddle of blood and came to a stop right at Isabella's feet. The party raged on, but just beyond the fence, a slow, tired pair of footsteps returned home. Walter, carrying a small bag from church, some bread, a carton of milk, turned into his driveway and immediately heard it. The pounding music, the drunken shouts, the chaotic laughter echoing from next door. He stopped. Again, no anger, no surprise, just exhaustion. He glanced at the row of parked luxury cars, the flashes of party lights slicing through the midday sun. But then he froze. Buddy wasn't there. No paw steps, no wagon tail, no bark, only silence and a chill creeping down his spine. He rushed inside. Buddy, where are you, boy? No answer. And then he saw it. Buddy, lying near the back corner of the yard, still, surrounded by blood. No, 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 no. Buddy, my boy. I was only gone a little while, just a little while. Walter dropped to his knees, hands trembling as he pulled off the little cloth tied around Buddy's neck to press against the wound. You're a tough one, huh? Hang in there. Help's coming. He called 911, voice cracking. I need an ambulance. It's my dog. He's been hurt. Badly. While the paramedics were en route, Walter stumbled into the living room, heart pounding. He pulled up the security footage from the backyard camera, fingers shaking. He played it, and when the footage ended, he said nothing. No rage, no curses, just silence. His arms fell slack at his sides, eyes red, chest rising and falling, holding in a breath that never escaped. The beer bottle, the girl, the throw, Buddy's cry, the blood, the final silent stare. He closed his eyes. You can't reason with someone like that. He picked up his phone and called the police. When the EMTs arrived, he guided them to the backyard. Buddy was still alive, barely, breathing shallow, bleeding slower, fading. Walter whispered something under his breath as the medics worked, but no one heard it. 20 minutes later, the party was still thumping. 2 police cruisers pulled up to the driveway, red and blue lights flickering across the concrete like a warning flare. The crowd turned. Some froze. Some grabbed their phones and quickly unfollowed Isabella on the spot. One girl covered her mouth and whispered, I should have stopped her. Another guy pulled his girlfriend aside. Turn off the live. Don't show your face. This is serious. Isabella was still live, still smiling, still talking to her fans. And that's how you do a real comeback, baby. An officer stepped into view. Miss Isabella Monroe? Yes. If this is about the noise, We received a report of animal abuse. There's security footage. We'd like you to come with us. What? Seriously? She laughed, confused. You're doing all this over a dog? Please cooperate, ma'am. I'm a public figure. I have 6 million followers. I represent global brands. Do you understand what you're doing to my reputation? The law doesn't care about followers, the officer replied coldly. He raised his phone and hit play. The video rolled. The throw, the impact, the blood. Buddy's eyes. Isabella froze. The glass in her hands slipped, shattered against the patio floor. She didn't move, didn't blink, only stared as if realizing for the first time that this wasn't a script she could rewrite. No, it's not what it looks like. They've got it all wrong. I didn't mean... Everything will be clarified at the station. The cuffs clicked shut, not loudly, but enough to silence the world. Guests scattered. No one spoke. Only the live stream kept running. Isabella animal abuser, justice for Buddy, do not support her. Hashtags began climbing, fast and vicious. A soft beep echoed. The live stream ended, and the final frame, Isabella's face, no lighting, no glamour, just emptiness. The curtain dropped, but the karma was just getting started. 3 hours after being escorted away, Isabella was released on bail by her private attorney. She walked out of the station wearing oversized black sunglasses and a long coat draped down to her ankles, as if trying to hide not just her face, but something far more broken inside. But as the doors of the police station closed behind her, another door, the gate to social media hell, flung wide open. One of the party guests, shaken by what they had witnessed, quietly uploaded the video of Isabella hurling the beer bottle at Buddy. No filters, no music, just a raw, brutal moment. Buddy flinching, blood soaking his fur, that final silent look, locked onto Isabella. The video spread like wildfire. Thousands of angry comments poured in within minutes. What did I just watch? She should be in jail. Disgusting, unfollowed. No amount of PR can fix this, ever. Without waiting for any PR intervention, major brands began releasing statements. Lormans Beauty canceled their contract. We do not tolerate violence in any form. Virlet Fashion removed all content featuring her. Her name vanished from their site. A popular coffee chain she once endorsed began receiving backlash. Why work with an animal abuser? From entertainment sites to animal rights groups, Isabella's name became a symbol of hypocrisy and cruelty. Her Instagram, 6.4 million followers, was flooded with reports. Within 2 hours, it was temporarily suspended for community ethics violations. TikTok flagged her account. Twitter restricted replies. Old stories of her playing with pets or speaking up for animal rights were dug up and turned into memes. Loving dogs or launching them? The mask has fallen. Karma is faster than cancel culture this time. She tried to post a story. I'm sorry if my actions hurt anyone, but please remember, I'm human too. It took less than 5 minutes for the internet to strike back. The clip was edited, reposted with the caption, "She said if it hurt you, not that she's sorry." A new hashtag exploded. Sorry, not sorry. She checked Instagram. Your account has been temporarily suspended. She tried TikTok. Her last video now labeled, "Content violates community guidelines." On Twitter, her apology was ratioed, 40,000 quote tweets, most of them furious. Every refresh brought a new blow. There was nowhere left to hide. By morning, her longtime manager of 5 years sent a single-line email. Effective immediately, we are ending all representation. No explanations, no negotiations. Her media agency canceled all bookings. Marketing firms wiped her from KOL rosters. She called, they didn't pick up. She texted, no one replied. From brand goddess to blacklist keyword, overnight. Returning to Maplewood, she was met with a silence that cut colder than words. Neighbors stared, blank, sharp. A note was taped to her gate. This is a peaceful neighborhood. We do not welcome violence, not toward people nor animals. A family walking by pulled their child to the other side of the street. An elderly woman watering her plants looked up. Didn't speak. She just shook her head. No one called. No more invitations, no brands, no titles. She once thought herself untouchable, protected by millions of followers. But the truth was, one click, one share, one moment of losing control was enough to topple the empire she built on pretense. When the scandal hit rock bottom, everything seemed over. But there was still one person who hadn't given up entirely. The CEO of Argo Media Group, the media giant that once backed Isabella's rise, personally summoned her. He didn't say much. He placed a folder on the table. Inside it, a rehabilitation proposal. If you want a second chance, this is the only way. No PR, no live streams, no makeup. You'll do real work at an animal rescue center. Isabella wanted to protest, but she had no more cards to play. Everyone had walked away, and this might be the last door still open. The rescue center was on the city's outskirts. No luxury, no lights, only the sound of breathing, barking, and wind brushing through old wire kennels. Isabella entered with a cold, blank stare. Reluctant, distant, she wore the volunteer uniform, a plain blue t-shirt, her hair pulled back. "We don't need celebrities here," one staffer said bluntly. "Just people who know how to get their hands dirty." Her first day, cleaning waste, scrubbing cages, refilling water bowls. The smell made her wrinkle her nose. A tiny dog cowered in the corner, staring at her nervously. She turned away without a word. On day 2, she tried secretly recording a story while feeding the dogs. Before she could post, a staffer snapped, "This place isn't for views. If you're not here to help, go home." She tucked her phone away. After that, it stayed on silent and in her pocket. On the 3rd day, she was assigned to feed the dogs with disabilities. And that's when she met him. A white dog, missing the leg, wobbling toward her, its back leg uneven, its gait lopsided, but its eyes sparkled, and its tail never stopped wagging. The dog tripped, then immediately got back up, kept going, kept wagging, came closer, eyes bright, tongue out. Isabella froze, no cameras, no live stream, no applause. Just a creature who had lost a part of itself but never lost faith in people. She suddenly realized she once had everything, yet never knew how to stand back up. She once threw away love, and here stood a creature discarded by humans, still ready to love again. She broke down. For the first time, she cried. 1 week later, Walter brought Buddy in for a checkup. The wound was healing, but he still needed care. When Isabella saw Walter enter, she froze. She didn't dare look up. But Buddy recognized her. He walked slowly. His legs weren't as strong as before, but still, he came closer. And then he gently licked her hand. She trembled, not from fear, but from emotion. She knelt, hugged Buddy, her tears soaking into his brown fur. Walter had been standing by the door, quietly watching her treat other dogs. No instructions, no cameras, just her, kneeling, unafraid to get dirty. The mask completely gone. He finally stepped forward, gently. "Redemption," he said, "doesn't come from an apology. It comes from real change." Isabella said nothing. She only nodded, silently, and went back to work. For the first time, there were no virtual claps, only a strange, unfamiliar feeling, light and real, something she had never known before. It might have been peace. One autumn morning, a light breeze, gentle sunlight. No stage lights, no microphones, no loud live streams. Just a phone placed on a wooden stand, and a girl wearing a simple white t-shirt, her hair tied up, a bare face, natural look, staring directly into the camera. Isabella, it was her, but no longer the person she once was. She took a deep breath, then began to speak. No background music, no cuts. "I once thought I was invincible, because I had beauty, I had fame, I had millions of people cheering me on. But it turns out, all it takes is one dog to look at you with disappointment, and that's enough to make you fall apart. I lost everything, but because of that, I now know what it really means to start over. The right way." That video didn't go viral. It didn't trend. It wasn't sponsored, but it spread because of the truth. A few weeks later, Isabella returned to YouTube, this time with a completely new name, Animal Redemption. No more promoting foundations, fashion, or luxury vacations. Instead, she focused on footage of her journey rehabilitating abandoned dogs, days spent cleaning households, feeding and bathing with her own hands. Small stories about creatures who had been hurt, but still believed in humans. Isabella sat beside a small dog whose scarred body made her heart ache. "I used to live in illusions, but now sitting with these abandoned dogs, I realize that love is what truly brings value to life." In a recent video, viewers witnessed a scene that left everyone silent. Buddy was lying his head on Isabella's lap, his eyes half closed in the soft afternoon sun. Walter sat next to them, holding a cup of tea, a gentle smile on his face. And Isabella, no longer radiant but calm, smiled a genuine smile. Not bright, but real. Fame can come from appearance, but forgiveness is only for those brave enough to change from within. She stood next to a dog that had just been adopted, gently tossing a ball into the air. The sunlight poured through, and in that moment, she realized that freedom and love were the things she truly needed. For the first time in her heart, there were no more hollow applause, only a strange, light feeling, real, something she had never known before. That might be peace.